Alright, welcome back. So, time to take a look at the Cormorant Navy's long-range build. So I said last time that I preferred the long-range build over the brawler builds, and that's for a very specific reason. The kite build, or the long-range build, does allow you to basically be far from the center, basically be far away from all the drones, which means that you are not going to be tackled easily by Asteros, and you don't have to have expensive integrations, although the previous integrations haven't been expensive, but my goal is to basically try to make something cheap and effective, and this is basically the long range kite build. Has one burst and one range rig for the railguns. I'll be using the high power coil. The only thing that I'll be changing here is I'll add a general unit for the magnetic field stabilizers. Now, you don't necessarily have to have the same units or the same implants or the same level of the implant. This is just for orientation, basically, just to see what you can expect from a build like this. I would say a high level implant, not really important, makes things easier, but you can also clear all that even without using an implant. It just takes a bit longer, but the kite build, this build is much cheaper. Does cost much less. There's no integrations over here involved. The ship's capacitor is stable, has a capacitor battery, and overall this ship's speed isn't all that bad. Now, one thing that I would change, I didn't have any auxiliary thrusters, but I would change at least one engineering rig into a auxiliary 2 rig. You can go with the auxiliary 3 if you like, but auxiliary 2, the tier 2 rigs are more than enough. You can pick the tier 3 rig, but if it's cheap, if the tier 3 rig is expensive, you can just pick the lower grade rig. It's not going to make a big difference. It just saves a lot of risk. So that's one thing that you can do if you want a cheap little boat for this job. But let's open the portal and let's yeet this ship in the Kalevala expanse, and let's see how a long-range Cormorant will work. And a little spoiler, but it's going to be it's going to feel much more natural. I honestly prefer this build over the previous build, mainly because of the price. The price tag is the first thing, and how it works, the convenience, is basically the second thing. I found this to just be much better, and this is also a beautiful red giant. What did they do with those stars? They look awesome. I don't know, or I just haven't been looking at those stars that often. In any case, when I normally spawn. Now, when you are in a kite build, do not warp at 0, just avoid warping at 0. Warp at 100 kilometers and let those drones approach you. You don't want to be slingshotted, you want to have them in your optimal range. My optimal is about 28 kilometers. I set approach to be about 34, orbit is also about 34. I did do that just because sometimes the ship just doesn't respond well, and sometimes the ship just goes well below the range that you have specified. So just because I usually set the distance to be a bit more than what it needs, and usually it works. That's been a trick that I've been using for a very long time. I'm not really sure why the ship doesn't really respond. Maybe the server, maybe my internet, but I usually set a bit more range than needed in case the ship doesn't respond, that I have enough time to basically burn away, not to get scrambled and webbed. Because if you do get scrambled, if you do get webbed, it is game over, since you have a micro warp drive, and the micro warp drive is being disabled if you get scrambled. You can make a dual propulsion build if you like. It's one of the ideas that you can do, a dual propulsion build. But then you sacrifice capacitor, and you have to sacrifice either the capacitor or DPS. So you have to make a sacrifice unless the ship does get a 4th low slot. But here we are shooting the first targets, and does have some good damage output. The drones cannot hit you at this distance, they don't have enough range. They have about 10-15 kilometer range. They might hit, but they will not do much damage to you at this distance, so you don't have to worry about being hit. They usually don't have enough range, and then the damage that you will be taking is not much. So tank in this case is non-existent. This is a paper sniper ship, but it's fast. It does have it does go about 2.3 kilometers per second, which for a ship with no auxiliary thrusters is decent. But if I do have auxiliary thrusters, the ship would obviously be much faster. So this is not the fastest speed that you can get, but it's enough and does get the job done. I would say the faster your ship goes, the better. And if you are a kite build, then speed is definitely very important. So if you do plan to have a build like this, focus on speed when it comes to the engineering rigs. Unless you do have a already stable or a very fast enough ship. At least 2 km per second or above, about 1.9 km per second is required with a micro warp drive in order to be able to outrun the drones. Some of the drones can be fast, and you don't want to be slower than them. If you're slower and if you can escape and if you can hit them, your ship is dead. So make sure that your ship can outrun these drones. And here you can take a look at 2.2 km per second is more than enough, actually more than enough to outrun these drones, and it's enough to kite them. I haven't changed the nanocore. It's still the same nanocore, same stats, same everything. Just extra shield stats, no extra DPS, no upgrades. Just a default nanocore, because I just love how the illusionary ghost looks. If you ask me, the illusionary ghost is one of the best looking nanocores in game, if not the best looking nanocore in game. And we have received those nanocores for free in the last couple weeks for a cruiser, for a frigate, and for a battlecruiser. So three free nanocores. Isn't that kind of funny? 3 free nano. Oh my god. Yeah. Say that 10 times fast, I guess. Anyway, so far does feel like a smooth approach. Much smoother than with a brawler build, because with the brawler build you are taking damage, you have to rely on like capacitor. With this build, neutralizers can scratch this ship, they can web me, they can catch me, and well, it's just keep distance and keep shooting until the drones are all dead. And that would be basically the idea behind this build. Is it working better? Yes, it does. Much more enjoyable this way. And I think the Cormorant was already meant to be used as a sniper, so this is basically how the ship was intended originally to be used. I will definitely check out the catalysts, the Thrasher and the other ships. What was the Amar? The store name, oh my god, I forgot. Well, it's a ship that I rarely see, so not much of a surprise that that's the case. But yeah, we'll be checking all of them out. And so far, 7.89 DPS, decent for this ship. Some of you guys might have much more DPS. Again, I'm trying to basically get about an average DPS output, so you know, to be more comparable to what you guys might have. I know some of you guys have much more DPS than I have on this ship, and that's pretty awesome. If you have much more DPS, this will be much easier and much faster. The more DPS you have, the smoother this goes. Alright, well, next wave spawned, more of these ships appeared. Same idea as last time, basically just wait for them to rush towards you, and then when they do rush towards you, try to slowly approach and then turn away when they're about to be within optimal range. You don't want to be slingshotted. Basically, the only thing that you have to worry about while flying this ship with this build is distance. And of course, distance and not to get slingshotted. Slingshot is nasty and it can be lethal. So make sure that you maintain optimal distance and make sure that nothing gets close to you. You should be able to dictate the range. I mean, this ship is built to do that, so range, speed, and keep at range is life. Now I'm trying to focus down the faster ships. Always focus down the faster ships. The two elite frigates that usually rush you, they have scrummers and webs. They need to be killed first. If they do get close to you, it's game over if you can't hit them. However, if they do get close to you, if you web them and scramble them, you can hit them. You have enough tracking with small rifled railguns. So while it can be scary, as long as you don't panic, it should be good. Panic basically is the #1 reason why ships are destroyed in a unexpected combat situation. Speaking from my experience, from what I have personally seen. Always funny when it's always funny when you engage a target and you obviously see the target panic. It's basically the #1 reason why players lose the ship. There is a lot of moments where the ship that we engage has a good chance to actually make us warp out. It's just at most panic. But you know, that's what I've noticed. And I've had so many PvP moments that I cannot panic even if I wish to panic. It's just, you know, just part of, you just, you know, every day. Next target will be that destroyer, I believe. Kiting is the way to go. I'm very curious to see how lasers will work in this case, with the focused and pulse crystal. Again, the implants are kind of a long-term investment. Not really something that you should be bothered with early on in the game. Early on in the game, you should be focusing on getting ships, getting skills, modules, getting familiar with the game, finding a good corporation, finding what you like to do. That's the primary goal. Once you do all that, then finding the implant for the ship that you like to fly is a long-term goal. Can be considered endgame goal, but there's a lot of endgame goals. I mean, what is my endgame goal? That's a good question. What is my endgame goal? I mean, I don't really buy new ships, I don't really buy new implants. I just log in the story battleships and log out. Well, when I say the story battleship, I mean PvP. That's basically one of the very few things that I'm doing at the moment, because nothing else is basically catching my interest. Well, tomorrow I'll be doing something else. I'll be running those way secret anomalies. That will be released. And yes, I am quite excited to check those out, because oh man, if my theory ends up being correct, I'll have a lot of these crystals laying around, and then I'll just wait for the market to like those crystals. When I say that, I mean just wait for the price to be right, and then those crystals are getting yeeted. In ETA, by the way, on the market. There is a demand for them. There is a demand for them, and I'll definitely save up a lot. Hopefully I don't end up doing PvP all day long again, but I would seriously love to run some PvE that I actually enjoy. I mean, this PvE content, for example, is enjoyable. It is different. It is different. It's not the same. It is not the same like storylines and stuff like that. You need to have a tactic over here in order to complete it. And that's what I like. That's what I like the most about Kalevala expanse. Honestly, looking forward for more regions to be opened. Should be fun. Okay, and let me see. That's the last boat of this wave, and then there should be a new wave spawning. The last wave. The last one will be fun because I'm actually far away, and if the more far away you are, the better it is because the more room for air you'll have, and the drones will also separate. It will be much easier to just pick off the fastest ones first, and then you will make your way slowly through the fastest ones to the more slower drones. Well, I'm far away. That's perfect. I will approach, and then I'll focus on the fastest ones. As you can see, it's honestly a much smoother ride with a kite build. Barely any threats, barely any, any danger from these ships. And if you do align, I actually recommend that you align towards a empty spot in space where there is no good warp in, so that you make the Astro spend more effort to actually try to catch you. And if they do end up getting close to you, you can quickly kill them off. They are not that tanky. After all, this is a destroyer, and they are good at disposing of frigates. They are good at disposing frigates, and you don't have to worry about those that much. The surprise PvP is what making this exciting. Let's go to the next drone. As you can see, the tactic works really well so far. I would say might very well be the best tactic that you can do with the ships, with the destroyers at least with the Cormorant. With frigates I did brawl, with the frigates I did go in because they're much faster, they are much more maneuverable, and of course they do have a bit more rig slots. And I had a more expensive build, but even these cheaper ships can do the same thing, and I would actually say it is doing it in about the same time, which is impressive. I thought they'll be here for a very long time. Well, turns out I was wrong. I'm not spending too much time running these anomalies. About 15 to 20 minutes per anomaly, average, with my average build and average DPS. Which is generally pretty decent. Depending on the loot, of course, one of the things that you have to keep in mind, sometimes you get something, sometimes you don't, but in the end, on an average, the loot is really good, and you won't have any problems with the loot output here. The loot is, generally speaking, fantastic. And it will be much more, I guess, important. The minerals will be much more important as new ships are being added and built. I know the boxes are there, but the boxes will not be all the time there. Still not really sure why they added those boxes, but it makes sense, but at the same time it doesn't, and I'm not a fan of the boxes. I think that's pretty stupid that they added those boxes, but that's just me. Eating drone by drone, so far so good. This is, by the way, a much cheaper build than the Brawler build. The Brawl build definitely costs much more than this. And the difference in clear time is non-existent. I would actually say that I am clearing faster now with a kite build than with a Brawler build. So if you are kind of torn between what build you want to use, hopefully these two videos will help. And this is not really bound to only one ship. This, I think, does apply to all of the ships, well, kind of all the ships. I think it should be able to be applied to all of the stars. It will be fun to see how the Thrasher will work. I think the Thrasher might have a very interesting performance because of the new artillery covering plant and because of the barraging plant. It will be fun to check that thing out. Of course, in combat over here. Could potentially work better. There's also the sniping plant, which is also really awesome. Need to check what's the maximum possible range that I can get on the Thrasher. Hopefully it's like 50-60 kilometers. If it's like 50 kilometers with the sniping plant, that will be pretty awesome and hopefully really good. But the Cormorant here is performing really well. I think most of the players will still prefer the long range build because of how easy it is to make it work. Besides the easiness factor, the price factor is also there. I mean, I have no integrations on this and it's clearing it really well. So that's a big bonus if you ask me, that it can clear this without using integrations. So far I've used integrations, this time I'm not, and it works. Pretty happy with the outcome, that's for sure. Really happy with this ship. So in the end, these destroyers don't suck. They're actually decent. They're decent ships if you give them a decent build, of course. It's been always the case, I would say. The build is what makes the ship, and the palette, of course. The better the palette, the better the ship. I mean, in the end, I would actually say, in some cases, the ship doesn't really matter much. If the ship is piloted by an experienced pilot, or if the ship has a bad build, then you can't really expect a good performance out of the ship. But with this little boat, I mean, I'm honestly pretty happy with it. I cannot get enough of the illusionary ghost and Alcor. It looks awesome. And if you're wondering, well, I still haven't picked a illusionary ghost core from those boxes. I have absolutely no idea what ship to get an Enocor. I am torn between 1,000 different things. If possible, I would just get all of them, but that's not possible. I can only choose one core for one ship per box. So yeah, that kind of sucks, but it is what it is. For the interceptor, for the frigate core, I think I'll just go with the slasher and just get a very fast tackle ship to have a lot of points. I will definitely upgrade that nano core, and that boat will have a lot of points. Maybe for my alt, just so I can hold things with it. Illusionary ghost tackle is important versus ships that have a lot of stabs. Versus ships that have a lot of stabs, it's going to work just fine. Well, hopefully, we will see. And well, my final thoughts on this build. Well, as I already mentioned, maybe 1,000 times today, the long range build is the way to go. If you would like to try out both builds, if you want to do that, you can. I basically gave you the blueprint on how the builds should technically look, and my goal in the end is to give you guys a interesting idea, a interesting build, something to play around with, and hopefully I'm able to help build some ships for the Kalevala expanse. But that would be it for today. It was a very nice little run with the Cormorant Navy. I really like this ship, it's awesome, and it works really well for this new content. But with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. If you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And with that being said, stay safe, and as always, I'll see you next time.